Restart.
So it's a completely different broadcast.
There are bridges in sky are shining in the sun. They are stone and steel and wire. They change things now. They are languages and letters. They are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than all. They are languages and letters. They are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than all. There are canyons, there are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, they are all the void light. They are fear, blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul-provoking, and they're so very wide. They are fear, blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul-provoking, and they're so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross with a song. Let us span another canyon, let us right another wrong. Oh, if someone should ask us where our and bound today, we will tell them building bridges as we often done our way. Oh, if someone should ask us where our and bound today, we will tell them building bridges as we often done our way. We will tell them building bridges as we.
And we've got background noise according to our computer. And that was Bill Staines playing Bridges' song for Bridges 4 to allow us to use on Bridges programming. Thank you, Bill Staines. Next to me is Susan Comont.
Hello.
And I'm Jeff Bella. Dennis Carius is on the line. This is Bridges programming, which we don't have on the screen right now, but it's Bridges programming. You can look us up on YouTube and on bridgesprogramming.com. This is also brought to you by Renew the Earth, which is not responsible for the content of this program. Just we bring as many people together as we can with as many humans' ridiculous opinions as possible. These are our ridiculous opinions, and we think we may be right, but we are always opening our microphones to people who want to talk about other opinions. We have with us Dennis, and it's also Renew the Earth and Bridges Programming, and the big thrust behind this is something called a human renewable energy measure. A human renewable energy measure. And that means that every human being on the planet would have to work for about a day a week, because of today's technology. You shouldn't need more than that for your basic needs met. That's education, food, and shelter, and that's measured in energy units, and that's the hrem.org on your screen right now.
Go to that site and you can read a lot of other material that
The human renewable energy measure.
we posted there.
But today we're going to be talking about, and we had other shows about this, and I was talking to a young fella, maybe 25 years old, and he was doing drugs for a bit, and he got caught, and he wound up in jail. He's a smart guy, but he did something that he wanted to make a quick buck, so he was peddling drugs, and he got out of jail. He's trying to do his thing, trying to go straight, and he's still a little bit of a wise yap, but he was talking about, he's working for me a little bit, and he's working hard, and all of a sudden he said, I really want to buy a car. And I say, what do you want? And the car he wants to buy is sort of a nice car, you know, it's about 12, 15,000, a used car. And he wants to change the headers on it, and he wants to change the wheels,
Make it flashy.
make it flashy. He called it an old man's car, so you like that kind of a car. It would sound quiet. I think it's a Lexus or something.
Comfortable.
Comfortable, you like it. I like my cars that I like my little Priuses, and I like much cheaper cars. But he thought this was an old man's big old car.
Well, like a Cadillac.
And he said I said if you put a beard on and short and gray hair, you may not get pulled over as often. But anyway, he wants to put fancy wheels on it, and I said, why do you want to do that? It's a pretty stupid thing to do, to spend your hours of labor to buy something that's flashy. Why do you want to do that? And he said to me, because it makes me happy. I said, happy? He says, why do you do things? I said, I do things that I get a certain amount of satisfaction out of it. Happiness is another form of a belief system and an emotion, and I can't describe when I'm super happy or when I'm happy or when I can tell you when I'm not feeling happy, but I can tell you, but I can't really say when I'm happy. I don't know what kind of state of mind it is.
When you're not feeling unhappy, that's when you're happy.
I don't know.
I mean,
but
that would be the opposite.
But I do know I get certain satisfaction out of things. And now, Dennis, I'm going to ask you a question. Dennis, did you read the summary for tonight, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, do you want to read it out loud?
Well, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
Well, that's because you were here
I
nice.
can read it.
That's because you were nice and early for the program, and you studied for it.
There you go. Now you know why I like to be on your show, because I'm happy.
Well, that's one very good thing about Dennis is he's got a great outlook on life, and I think he's a reasonably happy person. By the way, Dennis,
Do you want to hear a definition of happiness?
We'll listen to the summary, but I'm going to ask you after the summary, what makes Dennis happy?
Well, ask him now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll ask you now.
What?
What do you think makes you happy?
Well, just growing up, and not just a nation, but in a world, I was very happy. But then when it started going in a bad direction, I'm getting more and more sad. I really want to reform anything if it gets dysfunctional.
Well, everything that I know of, including lots of people who are very dysfunctional, but the reality is that sometimes they're happy even being dysfunctional. Do you think that we have a huge amount of population that is dysfunctional and happy? I mean, I don't know what. Can you describe when you're happy? That's what I want. I want to know specifically what makes you happy.
Yes, I've done this before. I use the word greed. Millionaires are real happy when they become billionaires, and billionaires are even more happy if they can become trillionaires. But there has to be a limit on how they do that.
But how happy could
So
a
you're equating money with
okay,
happiness.
why you can't equate money?
Well,
I know
that's
billionaires.
not unusual.
I know billionaires who jump off of roofs.
You know,
because
it's not unusual. From what I've read, 80% of our population equates happiness with money.
but that has nothing to. Money has nothing to do with happiness, does it?
No, it's just the opposite. I'm just saying that 99% of us are very unhappy if the upper 1% wants to go from billion to $1 trillion, get oil from the Middle East at no charge by putting a dictator in over there, coming over here, selling it the gas, and then they're going to be really rich. But the bad news is what we call terrorism over the Middle East. A lot of that is being provoked by our dependence on the oil that's under the ground.
Well, but if we elect a good person like Donald Trump, he'll just take the oil, and then we wouldn't have that problem, right?
Wow, that's interesting. He'll just take the oil, and then. But over there, they won't be happy because their democratically elected leader, like in Iran, will be taken out, and then like the Shah of Iran will go get put in there. They won't be happy.
Well, Donald Trump will just Donald Trump will just take over that country.
I know. I already heard he wants to build a wall all the way between Mexico and our country, the United States of America. But when it's done, we're not going to
ask you a question, what's the difference? What's the difference between? But Donald Trump doesn't want to pay taxes, and he hasn't paid. He's very proud of the fact that he thinks he's real smart by not paying taxes.
And he believes in the trickle-down theory.
And he believes
and you
that-
know what trickles down? It's not better incomes for people. It's the taxes trickle down. Because then more people who are less able to pay them, and having a hard time getting jobs that pay enough to give them a living wage. The taxes that the very wealthy are dodging. Those are trickling down, so that they have to be paid by people who, the middle class, and then the people who can't pay them just can't.
And the same person I met today in in one of the stores I was in, getting stuff for this program actually.
How do you like my new definition of trickle down?
Well, trickle-down
taxes.
Trickle-down taxes are trickling down, so the rich don't have to pay any more taxes, and the poor has to work harder. But what she said to me was very simple. She said that, how did she put that? I just went blank. She said that if the rich don't pay the taxes, and you're smart by not paying taxes, then anybody paying taxes would be stupid, which I thought was sort of ingenious.
Well, that's the opinion of people who are able to dodge their taxes.
Now someone like Donald Trump, who goes ahead and they say, I'm smart by not paying taxes, he's calling everybody who pays taxes stupid. Plus, where is he going to get the money from to build the wall? Where is he going to get the money from to support his military? Well, Mexico's not going to pay for it.
And where's the money going to come from infrastructure?
And he's going to fix the infrastructure. How is he going to pay for the infrastructure?
No, he thinks only about his investments and property.
And he's got property in every country that somebody mentioned. I got a place there. I got a place there too. So therefore,
more law and order.
And we need law and order. That means we need more cops and more military. So if any of us get out of line, we could go ahead and they put us in jail or they shoot us in front of a wall. That sounds a little bit like Hitler did back in the old Second World War that people talk about, that we sent people in to try to fix. And that again, but that was also about economics. It really, again, is all about economies. So, but happiness I've found, because I've been into some very poor neighborhoods, Dennis, and I've found that people who are rich aren't the happy people.
No.
And I found people who are very poor aren't the happy people. But I found that people, in most cases, where they're reasonably comfortable, where they have their basic needs are being met, they have to work probably 2 jobs though to keep their basic needs met.
But if they have a stable life.
But if it's comfortable life, and they get happiness by taking a walk, or they get happiness by going to a park, or maybe going fishing, or maybe just talking to people to explain their.
That part of it, from what I've read, your social interactions are the very most important part of this.
And that's what makes.
What contact you're making with friends or with your relationship with
that's
your
what makes you
husband
happy.
or wife.
Right, that's
the most important.
That's the most important. Like if you and your wife have a nice conversation, and the reason I think you go to social events, Dennis, is because it makes you happy, or not sad, and being not sad, I guess, makes you happier to go to these social events. Would you find that not making you feel better and giving you some sort of satisfaction?
No, that would make me feel better. But would we be happy if a country like Canada built a wall all the way from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, and then when it was done, 30 feet tall wall, and then they said, America, you got to pay for this. Would we be happy with that?
What the point is that personally wouldn't affect me one way or the other. I don't think I'd be happier or sad if Canada wanted to build a wall. What do I care?
Right, and I'm sure they would never do that, but I'm wondering why Donald Trump said he would do that and we would not pay a penny for it.
Well, he can say anything he wants, but meanwhile, he lied when he visited the Mexican president, or the equivalents thereof, and he said that they never spoke about that, and the Mexican president said he lied because they did speak about that, and he said, we're not paying for no damn wall. He didn't say it like that, but that's what he meant. So Trump lied again. And then now let's get back to the first president of the first female president that we may have in this country. And what I'm finding about her, and we're going to talk about, in this case, Hillary Clinton. Now, Donald Trump does make me a little bit scared, which sort of would make me unhappy, I think. And Hillary Clinton also makes me scared, but I'm not quite as unhappy with Hillary as I am with Donald Trump.
Interesting.
All right, this is my personal view. There's people out there with different views, and I'm sure if they want to call in, they're more than welcome. Email us. We have on Bridges Programming. We'll even give you free time to talk about it. We'll interview you if you want to speak about this political campaign. However, what Hillary Clinton could have done, which she didn't do, was have Bernie Sanders, which has a huge view of how things could possibly be with the right legislation, and maybe stop some of the things you're talking about, Dennis, is a dysfunctional government. He may have some ideas on that. And today, who do you think she campaigned with in New Hampshire? Not her vice president, but you know who?
Who?
Bernie Sanders.
Okay. Well,
and he's talking about
losing primary that he is supporting her like he is. That's great.
And now, not only...
It's too bad she didn't choose him for vice
She
president.
should have chosen him for vice president. That's the guy she should have had running with her.
She would have had this beat
Right.
hands down.
She would have. It would have been a hands. You know, she would have won this. There'd be no. You wouldn't even have to hold the election.
But they were talking about something that I hope that she continues to do this when she gets in office.
They're talking about
But
education for all.
college
education
for free.
As far as you could go, as far as you need for zero cost.
As long as you don't make over
that's
$150,000 or something like that.
up to $150,000.
I don't remember what it was. It was around there.
$125,000 bucks.
Right.
You can make up to that, and your kids go to school free, and then after that you got to pay for it, which I think's a nice, fair way to do it. But I even think that's too high because the people I deal with, the people I know, are lucky to make $75,000 a year. And that would be in a high bracket, and I know people only making $60,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
by the way,
median income.
and
in this
the
country is
legislative-
about 60,000.
and the legislation in New York State is trying to get they're trying to get a raise, and they're making over $100,000 a
Right.
year.
So they'll pay for
And
their
the governor's
kids'
making almost
college education.
$170,000 a year. So I mean, wait a second, there's something
And
radically.
he's making the equation that the more money you can offer these people, the better people
the
you're going to
people you're
get.
gonna hire, but that's
Right,
not
but that's
true.
not how it translates.
'Cause I know a lot of
'Cause he's
people
got a lot of corrupt people
who'd be
working
great,
for him.
and
Right
he
now.
wants to raise to like from 170 to 250,000. Well, the thing is, first of all, the money has no value, so that's another problem. But we should make sure that no legislator should make more than 5 times the minimum wage.
Oh, this afternoon you said 10.
Well, I realize that's too high.
Okay, you're saying
5 times.
All right.
So if someone's making $10 an hour, a legislator, for the hours they actually work, when they clock in, they got to work the hours. No more than $50 an hour. Now a plumber makes $150. A doctor makes unbelievable amounts per hour.
But they
the-
don't work every hour of the day at that rate.
Right,
Yeah.
but they
work
make,
maybe
but
a
a
day
legislator
a week
should,
that
a
way.
legislator who's representing the people in their country should not, in their own area, their country, should never make more than 5 times. Like $10 an hour is $50 an hour. And they'll see how difficult it is to live on 10 times that. So they'll have some compassion for the person who's making 5 times less than they are. But they have to live on that. That would be an interesting thing. And then we have to figure out a tax structure that works so we know how much taxes and what a minimum wage should be. We don't have that now because there's no measurement for this. But we do have in Bridges Programming, sponsored by the Human Renewable Energy Measurement, we do have a measurement for that. And it's measured in energy units. And we feel as though if every human being in the world got their basic needs met for about 1 hour a day or 1 day a week worth of labor, of work to help the society
And
around
that's a
them.
stabilizing thing, like a family life that's got a good routine, a companion that you trust and feel comfortable with. What we're trying to do is make a base within economics that stabilizes people's lives so that they feel comfortable. And it's from that point that you can you're more likely to have a happier population.
Yeah, because they have more free time. Now, everyone's never going to be happy.
All the time.
And I don't know what happiness
Well,
really is.
Do you want me to read the definition?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's
Because you
review it.
can, then you have something to, because it's not just one word, and it's not just one,
Feeling.
it's like many gradations of feeling, and they all can be defined as a form of happiness. Some synonyms, if you look up the definition, would be pleasure, contentment, satisfaction is one of them, and you were saying that you feel satisfaction, so that's a form of happiness. Cheerfulness, merriment, gaiety, joy, joviality, jollity, glee, delight. I mean, delight, you could have moments of delight many
Right.
times during a day, something you see.
If you saw a bird,
chipmunk goes running
that's
by.
delightful.
Yeah.
Or your chickens running around, that could be delightful.
or
you know,
something you eat that's just
or,
wonderful.
or a cloud in the sky, that could be delightful.
Right,
you know.
or you a
Or
child
or a
that's
good piece of
playing.
candy, maybe.
Yeah. Good spirits, lightheartedness, well-being.
I consider Dennis delightful.
I think Dennis is very lighthearted,
Lighthearted and delightful, right?
and
Yay!
yes.
That's
Of course,
good.
then there are more intense feelings of happiness, like exuberance, exhilaration. These are things we don't experience too much. Elation, ecstasy, rapture, bliss. These are things that are more rare, but they're also forms on the other end of the scale of happiness.
So there's
Blissfulness,
even levels. There's
euphoria.
levels
Right.
of happiness, just like there's levels
And then,
of how much.
the cliche of the Hollywood ending, everyone's happy at the end.
Dennis, look up greed while you're
Was
listening to
it
this.
happily ever after, right?
Right. Look
But
up
that-
look up greed in the dictionary.
G-R-E-E-D.
You look it up.
Greed.
Meanwhile,
I gotta,
So-
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Both you and Susan, because it just seems like there's something dysfunctional that we need to reform here.
okay.
And yeah,
Well,
What is it you're
Go
thinking
ahead.
of, Dennis?
well, wait a minute, I'm gonna look up greed. So before
Yeah,
the
that
show
makes
goes
us
on, I'll
unhappy.
ask you that.
okay, I want to bring this out to you that being a dysfunctional individual, if each of us don't function well,
It affects other
it
people.
affects the next group of people who don't function well. So we in turn are partially responsible
It's
for the
catching.
dysfunctionality of the federal government.
Well, and also they say that, like the blues are catching. Well, unhappiness is also catching.
It's catching.
It's
So when you complain about how dysfunctional the government is, we have to look at ourselves and say, how dysfunctional are we? Like, I can never get this machine to work for us. It's very hard for me to get this machine to work for our programming. Very frustrating, and I can't do it. Now there are people who can do this a lot better than I can, But that gives, if I can't get this work properly, and I don't spend the time trying to figure it out, which I'm not doing like I'd like to do, then I become dysfunctional and the programs never get done properly. There's echoes in the line, there's problems with the video, that's a part of my own dysfunctionality. I see that, and I got to work on that to get that changed. I know people who can't neaten their house up. They just can't do it. And it builds up to a point where the crescendo where they can't even walk in between the paths.
Walk
around the place.
The interior.
I know someone, a very smart guy. He lives up in the mountain here, and he's getting to a point. He wants
Wonderful
a
humanitarian.
great person.
Social
but
justice work.
He's a collector, and he can't get rid of
Can't
his
even
stuff.
get in his door anymore.
It's phenomenal. It's just amazing. Now, this is a very functional person
On some level.
on some levels, but when it comes to life work, he's dysfunctional. And then when you add that up throughout the whole country, you have a government which is not functioning for the people. Why? For some reason or other, they can't allow themselves to do so. And then we bitch about the fact that they're dysfunctional. Well, the problem is we ourselves are not functioning well. If everybody functioned well, we wouldn't have global warming. We wouldn't have an economic system that's killing people around the world. It would change everything. And the way we have to start doing that to become functional is we need a measurement. And that measurement is very important. In other words, I know another person, and whenever I see that woman, her car is a total mess. You can't sit in any of the seats. It's a big car. So I keep on saying, when are you going to clean out your car? And she said, well, I've been so busy, I haven't had time to clean out my car. I said, well, once you get it cleaned out, and if you just pick it up every day, you won't have this problem of no room in your car. But the thing is, she has no room to put it in her house because the house is so messed up. Now, this is the same way for our government. They are so dysfunctional that they can't clean up their mess in their office to get to the next bill or throw out the nonsense to get to the meat of the problem to help the people of the country. So they keep on bringing in more bills to help the people who are giving them the money so they can keep on getting elected because they can't do the job right. So that's where your dysfunctionality, it appears to me, comes from. It's dysfunctional just like human beings are dysfunctional. They can't get it done because of the clutter in their minds and their hands and their bodies. They need to get the clutter cleaned up so they can function better. That's my opinion, but that's my own stupid opinion.
Clean up the clutter.
What do you think, Dennis?
Well, I think you had a great remark when you said we should have free college in this country because now technology has gone forward so fast that you could go to college and it would be less expensive than teaching kindergarten because these kids that graduate high school and want to go to college, they can go on the internet and do 95% of that education over the internet. And then those teachers, instead of all the work that a kindergarten teacher has to do, that teacher only has to put 5% of that time in just to give tests to prove that person on the internet is doing the right job and learning whatever their major is. So in this country, we really could have free college, but the problem is when a child is 18 years old and graduates from high school, that's the age where you go into the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force, and for years we've been saying, look it. I know college is expensive, but just go 4 years over there. When you come back, there'll be no charge. Don't worry about it. That's why we never have to ask where our troops are coming from when we go into Afghanistan or Iraq or anywhere. But what's really sad is these kids come back home. The rate of suicide is so high when these kids in their 20s come home and they go, oh my God, I can't believe that.
And a lot
they told me to go in that house. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of the promises too that the military makes of the higher education are not being fulfilled anymore by the military, and so it's not like it used to be when people came home from Second World War.
They
the
lie to
GI
you, that they
the
lie-
GI
they're
Bill
lying
said,
to you,
okay,
right.
you can go to any college that accepts you and we'll
They're
pay
they're
for
not
that.
telling you the truth.
It's a little different, but also both these things that you said, Dennis, the
Right.
education, and what someone has to do for the military education and what someone has to do for the internet education, both have a socialization type of quality to them. One, with the military, you have to be willing to kill somebody. You have to be willing to, not that you will, but you have to
You
be
have to know how to
trained.
work the equipment to kill people.
You have been trained to make that kind of a decision at some point,
A
if
commitment,
necessary.
a commitment,
That's
to, a
one of
commitment
the,
to whatever your general tells you to do,
it's
you
like,
will do.
right. And then the other one, you're saying, well, the individual can, for 80-90% of their educating, can sit in front of a computer and do it. There's no social interaction there. They'll see maybe their teacher on the screen, but they're not. A big part of happiness, and we're talking about happiness, is social interaction, is bonds that you make with
Other people.
other people. And it doesn't have to be a lot of them. They just, the quality of these
A
bonds
matter of
are
fact,
very,
most
very
people
important.
in the military,
And we don't wanna-
the military or in college, when people go to college, they bond with their college roommates.
Right. I'm reading some a book now about mathematicians and how it in some colleges they are very careful about selecting from the high schools the very, very most promising individuals and bringing them to the college and putting them together. And many individuals who find math as their preoccupation that young are often not socially very accepted, or they don't interact that well because they're thinking a little differently, and they behave maybe a little differently than their peers. But when they all get together and they are thinking along similar trains of thought, with numbers and calculating and solving problems, they make bonds then with each other, and that accentuates, it builds up, it inspires them to better
But the happiness,
thought
but the
processes.
happiness quotient comes from these, whether it's military groups of people in their platoons or their groups, or it's people doing writing work together or artwork
Yes, this can be
together.
extended to any
In
groups.
anything,
They
because
come together
it's
around
people,
an interest.
it's
or,
people who
right.
come together, and that involves more people enjoying one another's interaction. Now, you'll find like-minded people come together in their own group, and then people who believe it. But we've divided people up so much that it used to be when people got together, they got together in a group of people that were inclusive for the entire group, the entire clan, and the clan worked to help even other clans. If they ate a berry and they died because of the berry, everybody would tell the other clans, if you eat that berry, you're going to die. Not that we want you to eat the berry so you drop dead and we have more for us. That's not the way it used to be. It was set up so that's how our humanity grew, because we
Right.
shared in cooperation and we had satisfaction out of helping one another. When the male in the group knocked down a big piece of
And then,
an animal for food, he shared with everybody.
No, he
and
didn't get
if
more
they
than
had
he-
abundance,
yeah, the hunter didn't get
he
a
did- he
bigger
didn't-
portion.
No,
It was
he
all
just got
shared.
his portion. And if they had too much, they'd share with other tribes or other clans, and people worked together. And it was not in it was the only competition they had was, let's get the animal, or let's collect the food so we all can eat well. We'd all get, and in the old days, even in the United States, they got together for a bond raising. So all people built bonds for each other, and it was very hard for one person to build one bond, but 10 people getting together, and one person knew how to build them better, would sort of control that. They weren't the boss, but they were the advisor, and they worked alongside the other people. And they didn't get paid for it. They worked together in cooperation, not in competition. They didn't charge for it. And in this country,
So-
can you imagine trying to get together people to build a barn, whether you do that in religious groups to go overseas so they go to heaven afterward. But reality is they probably won't go, but they don't know that. But we need to come together, and that's why religion's sort of important. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that we need to understand that happiness is not how much money you can make. Happiness has no bearing on any of that. Neither does greed. Greed is something that, we had someone on the program.
What about greed? I don't know how you relate that to what you just said.
Greed, the relationship between greed is not a relationship about money. Like Dennis, you talk about.
Oh, okay.
You talk about a person who wants to be a billionaire wants to be a trillionaire, or a millionaire wants to be a billionaire, or someone who's making $10,000 a year wants to make $20,000 a year, or someone makes $20,000 a year, like Cuomo was making 170, wants now to make $250,000, and the legislators want to make more and more, but that's not going to make them happier. Their job should be making them happier.
But in a country where money is equated with your value, that's what
the
people
problem.
do, and that's why we're suggesting that the economic system needs to have a goal, a focus that
A baseline.
a baseline that asserts our commonality.
The economic
and,
system.
Yeah, in the economic system, and makes it possible, that an individual does not spend their whole work life
Trying to
to
stay
get
alive.
basic needs
Right.
met.
Now I want to bring something else out. Did you look up greed yet, Dennis?
Oh, yes, Dennis has greed here, yes.
Okay, read the definition of greed.
Okay, well, this is from the encyclopedia. It's called the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language. So this is, okay, let me just read greed, G-R-E-E-D. And, okay, I'm 99% of the way there. Okay, here it is, greed. Okay. And it is a rapacious desire for more than one needs or deserves as of food, wealth, or power, avarice.
More than
That's
you
what
need.
it says here.
So that means, rapacious. What does rapacious mean?
A very overwhelming, like a compulsion.
Okay, so, but does it say that if you're
That you
greedy,
can't stop.
does it say that if you're greedy, you're going to be happy if you keep on growing like that?
That's interesting. They even have a different, not just greed, but here's greedy. Excessively desirous of acquiring or possessing something, especially in quantity. Covetous, avaricious, wanting to eat or drink more than one can reasonably consume. Glutamous, voracious.
Voracious.
Okay, now I'm
Great,
going to
great.
try to get to a certain point. There's nowhere in the world that says if you're greedy and you
What you
keep
think
on
you want,
consuming,
it doesn't
you're going to
equate
be
to
any
happiness.
happier. Nowhere does that say that. And happiness is never going, if you look up happiness, it's not going to say someone who's got a lot is going to be happy.
No, but it
So-
does. But people, when they are interviewed, and this study that Harvard did for 75 years now about happiness. Actually, there's a YouTube video about it. I think it's a TED Talk. Robert Baldinger is now heading that study. It's the people that it started with were a group of individuals that were graduates of Harvard. It took them from that point in their lives all the way to some of them are still living and they're in their 90s now. And then another group that was in underadvantaged part of Boston, and they took those teenagers and a certain number, I think there were 700 to begin with, and now there's like maybe 60 people left. But every 2 years they were interviewed and questionnaires were sent to them about, you know, how their lives were going and what aspects of their lives were contributing to more contentment or more happiness, and you know, just a very extensive questioning. I don't know what the questions were, honestly, but this has gone on for 75 years, and that's where you know, they found that the individuals that lived the longest and the happiest lives, but these are all men that were being studied, so that also skews it. But anyway, they found that if you had a comfortable, significant relationship or relationships, friendships, or if your primary companion, you know, you're very comfortable with and you feel that any circumstance that comes up, they will be, you know, supportive and you know, not a conflict, a stressful relationship, but a good, comfortable relationship. This not only extended life, it made even the brain itself responded positively to this, because many of these individuals who lived to advanced age, 80s and 90s, they still had their wits about them,
right,
and they were happy. And so these things, this interaction, and so much of our lives now, because there's so much emphasis on making money,
right,
and profit and spending so much time, you know, at our work activities. Of course, there are offices where you have interactions with other people that you work with, but we're talking about really intimate relationships that are profoundly satisfying, and there are usually just a few of these in any person's life, maybe one, maybe two or three, and you're lucky if you have that many. And then there's a lot of, you know, grades of that, you know, but all of them serve a purpose, even acquaintances and you know, people that you never see but once in your life maybe. But all these things are significant and stabilizing for an individual, and make them you know, feel that their lives are worth living, essentially, and you know, not to you know, fall into depression and whatever and become
But but
unhopeful.
the thing is, there's a certain emotional things that happen, and unfortunately, it's very interesting to see this. I know people who are terribly, you know, having a really good day, and someone says something derogatory to them. It doesn't really affect them if they just say, by the way, tomorrow I'm really going to make you work hard, and therefore you better be ready, or I'm going to beat you up tomorrow, or I'm going to do something to you that you're not going to like tomorrow. Well, that messes up your entire day. You were just happy as could be, and all of a sudden, those few little words, just the words.
Well, and this is what politicians do. They say, oh, you know, tomorrow there could be a terrorist attack, you know, in your neighborhood.
Be afraid of it.
Be afraid, be fearful.
So people are fearful about it. Has no bear. It's not real. It's not going to happen. It's not. Hasn't happened yet. Well, tomorrow they're going to be a bombing. So therefore, we got to be careful. Don't go out today because, or don't drive your car today because you may get killed. Well, that's true.
So this impacts on
And
our
they always,
happiness quotient.
and you watch a news broadcast. And look.
And the weather, the bad weather's
exactly. Just watch your weather channel, and they'll give you 1,000,000 reasons you should be panic
Don't go out the
struck.
door.
If you go out, there's going to be fog today, and better watch out. You better make sure your cat and dog is covered up because we're going to have a
They're gonna
temperature
freeze to
drop.
death.
They'll freeze to death. I mean,
Popsicles.
this is some insanity that human beings, unfortunately, allow the words to matter. They take a warning that has no bearing on reality whatsoever, and it makes their emotions change. It makes their emotions change from happy to nervous or scared to panic,
Ouch.
to panic, to do something that, or they're hateful against another human being. Of course, they're a very fine human being. Let's suppose there was somebody in some temple over there who's really a nice person, but someone said, those people in that temple you got to blow up because, or that church you got to blow up because they're bad people, and you don't know this from Adam. So well, that's what our government does. We say, okay, go get them. But reality, if I told you the people across the street from you, and you're getting it off the news media, by the way, and you don't blow up those people across the street from you in that orange house because those people are vicious. Now, you never met those people in your life. A lot of people just take my word, and they're really skeptical now because I said something which was gossip about the person. You take it that it may be true instead of trying to find out for yourself. I'll give you, for instance. I had a guy I met, 87 years old. He just took a stroke, but he was the time when I met him, he was 85. And this was a very smart guy. And he said he didn't like Muslims. And I said, do you know any Muslims? He said, no, but I know they're no good. I said, how can you say that? Because I know Muslims, and the Muslims I knew were very nice people. I said, look, his name was Ray. And I said, Ray, let's us go out next Sunday and go to a mosque and meet some Muslims, just so you have exposure to the people you think are terrible. So there's no point in me doing that. They're just going to lie to us. I said, so with that kind of thinking process, how does a human being, another person...
Well, that's refusing to have a social connection.
Right. If he had a social connection with other Muslims, and he realized that they're just like him, but they're probably not as hateful as he was toward Muslims.
Toward him.
Toward him, right. So being hateful or being fearful, like, for instance, I'm not a fan of a lot of the politicians. I'm an independent thinker. I'm an independent voter. I don't care whether I have a wide open mind for anybody, be it a female who's going to want a presidency or a businessman who wants the presidency. I must keep an open mind. And I see that, I listen to them, and I feel as though, well, both of them are not saying what I really want to hear. Some of them are saying less things than I want to hear, so I've got to make a decision. Now, if I allow their words to upset me, then I become upset, and my emotional issue changes. So therefore, I'm allowing their words to upset me, where if it should not affect me. Now, if they become elected, it's going to affect me because they're going to make me work harder, and it's going to cost me money, which has no value. But their insistence on what's going to happen is going to make me work physically harder and lose my life because I have to put more hours in a day to pay some taxes or to do something. So it's going to affect me very seriously. So I try to listen to them, but they're not saying anything that's going to make me happy. It's going to make me choose because they're trying to do something, but the happiness quotient would not change providing we had our basic needs met and free time to enjoy other people.
That's
enjoy our family, enjoy our children.
Here.
Your lifetime is valuable. That's the most valuable thing you have. Not your money or your gold or your silver or your possessions. It's your lifetime. I love to build things, so I get satisfaction out of building certain things. They may not be valuable to anybody, but I like to build them. Some people like to weave. They may not be valuable to other people, but they enjoy weaving. They get satisfaction. Some people like to teach, and they get satisfaction out of it. Some people just like to go fishing, or go riding, or boating, or whatever they do. They get a certain amount of satisfaction out of it, which gives them a certain amount of happiness. So, Dennis, what do you do for happiness?
Well, I just might be happy
How do you do that?
by trying to reform anything that gets dysfunctional.
Well, do you
By
think
trying-
That's hard work.
Yeah.
You
But-
can't do that all the time.
it's very hard work, but don't you think you should,
Aren't there other things that
aren't
you
there other
do?
things that make you happy?
Well, yeah, right. But I'm just saying, I'd like to save our planet would make the most happy if we ever have like climate change or global warming, and we can save the planet by simply putting solar panels up on those roofs. And in 6 or 7 years, every roof that has solar panels gets all the money back from the energy that you get from those panels. In this country, we print money, not just millions or billions. We print trillions of dollars, and that's the only reason to do it, because you get every penny back in 6 or 7 years if those solar panels go up there. The only problem is, I read it says, Big Oil said, we'll have solar when they can put a meter on the sun. And of course, they're joking. You can't do that. You can't.
Well, they have done that, Dennis. They already
You
figured
can
out
figure it
that
out,
if they buy up all the solar panel companies, they charge you a certain percentage. They put them on your roof, and they make a fortune from the sun that puts back on your roof, and you're buying the panels from them. So they're not putting a meter on the sun, but they're making a lot of money off the solar power.
Well, instead of 1% doing that, I think 99% of us can build those solar panels.
Well, I don't think that's the case. Otherwise, we would. It's very expensive to build a solar panel. You need a tremendous amount of energy. You need lots of sand and silicon and aluminum and heat. And you got to have the engineering together. This is very expensive to build solar panels. The average person could not do that. But our
But
community...
it is more decentralized than
and,
fossil fuel energy.
and I guarantee you this, Dennis,
And it's
that
less impact
this
ultimately
planet will be here.
contaminating.
We're in the sixth extinction. Is that what we are in?
Well, that's what some
Well, yeah.
scientists are asserting.
Not just planet. I mean human beings too.
Right. So eventually, we are probably going to wipe ourselves out if we don't wise up and use our God-given brain for this. And until we do that, then I don't know what we're going to do, because that's exactly what's happening now. We need to figure out a way to get it so we stop killing one another and we stop, start cooperating. Not building
when
walls.
you say cooperating, that means we're communicating with each other. We're relating to each other socially. Right now we have a lot of technology that is a virtual kind of relating. It'll occur over the computer, or it'll occur through texts or emails. This is a good thing, but it's not the same as face-to-face contact, and it's that kind of contact that is so much more dimensional and will give the possibility of a relationship, or more than one relationship, that is going to sustain individuals through their lives. And to develop something like that, you need time. You need the free time to intermingle with other people. The reason that the new communication technologies are so prevalent is because people don't have much time. They only have enough time to maybe make a little
They'll
text message
something,
or a short email.
And they'll
or
rush like
they
hell
won't
to
even
pass you.
talk on the phone,
And they're in a
because
hurry.
they're in a hurry
They're
to
always
make
in a
their
hurry,
money,
right?
and they get to
they
the
gotta get to
job.
the next job, and the most important, I got to work. I got to get to work. It's very important, and they're right. They do have to get to work.
That is
the system
focus.
demands
Yeah,
it.
right.
By the way, I'm going to tell you what you could do about
So-
this. We're giving you the problem.
Change the focus.
I want
is-
to. I want to make sure that we try to get this message out. I get certain satisfaction or happiness out of thinking an idea that may work to help the planet, may work to stop dysfunctionality, it may work to have honest politicians, it may work for all humanity. And what this is a simple, basic measurement that you can do something with. And the way you do something with it is you use your own brain, your own idea. Don't send us money, even though you could become a PhD. Please help and donate to Renew the Earth. That's happiness. That could be could be your happiness, I don't know. For us, even no matter how much money we would make, I don't think it's going to make us any happier or sadder. But
Or more effective.
Or more effective. What I'm suggesting is that you use your own idea for this simple measurement, the hrem.org. And what this does is it says that every human being in the planet, in the world, no matter what country they're in, no matter what landmass they're on our own one big planet, would have their basic needs met for 1 day a week. That's their education, food, and shelter. And we can measure them in energy units. There are about 1 million units for food, 1 million for water, X amount of units for shelter, for minimum shelter required, and of course all the education possible. If we can put that into a measurement, which we have in the Human Renewable Energy Measure, which is on your screen now, the hrem.org,
Put it in the economics.
put it out there like gravity is out there. Only 400 years ago we named gravity and we were able to measure it. We live with gravity since the beginning of time, but we just named it. We're saying we all know what the problems are, but this may be the solution. A simple name, a simple measurement that we've done with the hrem.org. Please figure out how we can get this message out to as many people in as many languages around the world as possible. If you could see your way clear to do that, and it's time consuming. So all we're asking you for is put a little bit of time in, a little bit every day. Use your mind on how you could do that. Maybe talk to your pastor if you go to church, or if you go to a bar, talk about this human renewable energy measure. Get it into the vocabulary.
Or the conversation.
In the conversation,
Right.
so we all can have basic needs met, which then in turn gives us free time. When we have free time to do whatever we choose to do to give us satisfaction, and time to spend with the children or whatever we like to do,
Or developing
or
relationships.
developing relationships because you have free time now, then you work as hard as you want for what you need, not need, but what you want. That allows the free market to truly take effect. That stops, Dennis, your dysfunctionality that you're talking about. It allows you to have free time. That when you're sitting down having a cup of coffee and you look around the house and say, you know something, if I just clean that up and put that in the cupboard, it'll be a little bit neater. If I just pick this up and put it where it belongs, it'll be a little better. If I can just clean that up a little bit, and then maybe I can have some people come over the house and we can hobnob, and they'll do the same with you because they have free time. All of a sudden that time gives you an open mind so you can think about it, you can think a little bit better. And that's where the HREM comes in, and we believe if the HREM was put in place, you'd be a lot happier as an individual. Not perfectly happy, there's still going to be sad times. It's not going to be a utopia, as somebody said to me, but it will be a beginning. There's still slaves in utopia, even though utopia was a phony thing. That not real, but it was a great concept. But the guy who talked about utopia wound up getting his head chopped off. It's true story. Anyway, I want to thank you all for listening.
Henry VIII.
I want to thank you all for listening, and we'll be back again on Sunday on the front stoop. Thank you so much. We're going to go off the air, and please tell people about the Human Renewable Energy Measure. Thanks so much. So that's the story.
Jeff. Thank you,
Bye,
sir.
Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yay!
Bye-bye.
Dirty war breaks somewhere across the sea, and suddenly the price for comes up. Your neighbors out of work because they closed the factory. You try to stretch your paycheck, but never quite enough. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone, and you feel the thought. It all comes down to energy. Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake. Cars, farms, factories, and docks. Supplies go down, prices soar, our futures are at stake. And when it's gone, come back, will they?